I'm Julianne Puente, head of school at Albuquerque Academy in New Mexico. Even though I've been going to school in one shape or form for almost my entire life, I still learn something new every day, and I use that knowledge to tackle the challenges that should interest anyone who has a stake in the future we can't fully imagine. Thanks for joining me to hear about what I learned in school. Today I'm here with Associate Head of School, Christine Lenhart, who's going to be a co-host for some of these podcast episodes, and we're recording this first episode about 3 months into the school year. So that's 3 months that Albuquerque Academy students, almost 1,200 students across 612, have not been allowed to use their cell phones during school hours. Christine, how do you think this has been going for us in the last couple of months of school?
I actually think it's been an incredibly strong change that we've made this year. You know, there was hesitation, obviously, from some of the students when they originally heard this, but I do think that now even the students can utilize and understand how this change has really helped them both socially and emotionally, as well as just focusing on their schoolwork in a different capacity as well.
So we've been thinking about making this change for a couple of years now, and we would, especially in June, talk about, what's the right thing to do for the students in our school moving forward. What do you think gave us the impetus to have the actual courage to do it this summer?
I've actually been interested in talking about this, and we have talked about this over a series of years because I have noticed just the change in the way kids socialize with each other. I do think our student body has always been pretty good about the cell phones.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't a major problem. But I do think that, as we notice just the need for them to socialize differently, we notice the volume in the dining halls reducing a little bit. I do think that we came to a point where the research also has really strongly pushed us in this position as well as we've kept up with that. I do think that asking the parents and talking to the students and bringing in the leadership and a lot of teachers and getting all those opinions and people, more and more people were seeing the reasons for us moving in this direction. And it's actually been really awesome to see the students in the dining hall. The noise has increased in such a positive way. I would notice kids were tripping on the path sometimes because they'd be looking at their phone. And I have to say, I have not seen that this year. So all of those little pieces that I think really matter. Even the volume in the library itself has just been really encouraging. So just seeing the additional interactions, I think, has been really strong. And I think that, like, to your original question, I think the research and all of the different anecdotes that we had seen happening on campus really encouraged us to move in that direction.
It has been great to look out our windows and to watch kids talk or to walk shoulder to shoulder and actually engage in a conversation. It's been great to see that. And I actually forgot what school was like without phones. We had to make some choices and a bit of the policy in thinking about how we were going to roll it out. I mean, we did spend time talking about headphones and earbuds and eye watches and other kinds of things and decided that, we should eliminate all of it at that time. And that was what, we had some resistance about safety. And that, the kids wouldn't be safe if they didn't have their phones. I mean, I remember you speaking out, or we had a long conversation about that. Do you want to, provide some of our thoughts behind that when we didn't think that
No,
was the
absolutely. I do understand, when we asked for the parent feedback, the majority were in strong support of this change. And I do understand that there was a pocket of people that were concerned about safety. I think that we took that into consideration when we made the policy. So the phones are not, we talked about all sorts of things, like should the phones be in a certain place during the day? Should they be locked in a certain space? Recognizing the value of the phones themselves from a monetary standpoint as well. But, we do allow them to have them on, in their backpack. So they are really close to them during the day. So, from a safety standpoint, I think that hopefully helped people with that perspective. They also do have access to their computers. So, with my own children, I've actually emailed them a few times when I've needed them to know something, and just the access to the phone lines during the school day too. So I think people are recognizing, I understand that concern. I think people are recognizing that there are other options for communicating with their kiddos during the day as well.
And so has it, both of us teach, has it impacted how you are conducting your class?
It's interesting. The students did use cell phones occasionally in my class. For example, I would have them take a picture of questions that they were going to go interview people. on campus with. So, I have made slight adjustments. I had to catch myself in the first couple weeks, to be honest with
Yeah.
you, when I would start to say, oh, get out your cell phone to take a picture of, X, Y, or Z. But it actually hasn't been that challenging to make that change in my class. We didn't use the cell phones a lot to begin with, but in the nature of where we did, it just hasn't really negatively impacted at all. If anything, what I have seen is I don't have to say to students, please put that away. I didn't have to do that often, but there were times, like even now, sometimes I'll think a student has a cell phone underneath their desk really quickly, and I constantly am circulating the classroom, like, oh no, they're eating a fruit snack or whatever it is. So, I've had to change kind of the way I look at it sometimes too, but it has not been a problem. If anything, it's just encouraged them to stay more focused and have less distraction. So, Julianne, now that you've seen actually the way that the cell phone policy has been implemented at the school, are there any changes from watching it over the last series of weeks that you would see as a change that we should make moving forward?
I certainly have thought about like the faculty side of that. I mean, we should model the behavior. We allow adults on campus to carry them. We didn't choose or, specifically chose not to fight that fight right away. We wanted the support, and the faculty were the ones that would need to really not just implement but uphold it, and that has happened. I don't know if we need to go down that road. I know people have asked us. Some faculty have said, I think you should not allow faculty to use phones. I don't know how I feel about that. And some of our safety and communication protocols rely on the apps on our phones in that way, and I think it's a nice balance. I have done my very best to not carry my phone at all. That has also been problematic in different ways, but I think it's important for somebody like me to try and model that all of the time. So I wear a wristwatch. I try and have my schedule written down, if you will, when I leave the office, so I know where I have to go the next time. But I don't know if I would make or suggest that we make some different or adaptations to the policy. I think it's working pretty well.
It's interesting. I have actually found that students understand the difference between when adults have to pull out their phones during the day versus what we're asking them to do. There's times in class where the Titan alert will go off, and I've just explained to them the why, and I feel like they've been very supportive. I actually haven't heard a single student say, why does that adult have their phone out when I can't? I do think that they can recognize the differences there.
Yeah. I'm really proud that we did this. It was the right time. I did not have the courage to do it in a few years ago, but I felt the pendulum swing, and then we seized that opportunity and we did it. I do find it kind of funny. You remember we were, a meeting in June working on all of the handbook updates, and then we hit send, and then we got hammered with, you guys are doing it so early because you think we're going to forget by the time it comes to August, or you should have done this prior to contracts going out, or, you name it. I think we provided ourselves the space to make a good decision that we were all on board with, and that was the right time to do it. There was nothing nefarious or underhanded about trying to do it in June as opposed to January. We weren't ready to do it in January before contracts were issued, but that was as soon as we could actually send it out. So I think it was a good thing for our school, and I'm proud that we did it.
I think something else that students have commented on is that we provided space for all of the students to talk to us when they had questions, and just allowed that conversation to happen so they could understand a different perspective as to why we were considering doing the policy and then ultimately implementing it. Yeah. But we heard from many, fewer people than I actually thought we would in regards to the cell phone policy. If anything, we heard much more about just the support that they felt at home by the school stepping up in this way.
That's funny that you said that, because one of the things that came out of this that I did not expect at all, remember we were like, on the second infraction, their parents will have to come and get the phone. And I remember our conversation being like, this is going to be unnecessary confrontation for us. And how will the administrative assistants feel? They're going to be the ones holding the phones, and then parents are upset, they're working. But what has ended up happening are that parents are like, you can keep the phone for
Right.
another week. And we did not expect that at all. Same with like headphones, watches, like that, and certainly their phones themselves. That the vast majority of parents have been uber supportive, and the school and the families have been aligned. So it's actually, it really did make me laugh in the beginning. I did not expect that at all in that way. I'm very happy that we didn't go the route of collecting phones, putting them in bags. We talked about these kinds of things, but our kids are really compliant, and if things make sense to them, and this does make sense to them, even though it can be hard, they will comply, and that is what has happened. So even in the few phones that I have collected, the kids haven't been snarky or sarcastic. They may try and be like, oh, can I just have another chance or what have you, but really compliant and understand. So I think we also had the culture here with our student body that it could work. And where I watch where schools have struggled is with the collection with that. And that's a whole other layer of logistics that seem real easy from the outside, but they're not when you're on the front line there. So, and the deans of students, I thought, also came up really with smart way of handling the infractions. That there were some collection points around the school. They go there. I really thought about that. I thought we were going to have to put their names on it and all this. And of course, the kids know, their phones are through scans, either a thumbprint or a face scan. So we've been able to get them right back to the kids by the end of the day or later on in the week or what have you. So they were really Bob Anderson, Mark Cuven, other deans of students and our divisions were really handled the logistics part, I thought, really beautifully, and that has worked. So we talked about all of the upside. What are some of the problems, or I think they're champagne problems, but that we've experienced on campus?
It's been kind of hilarious, some of the new things that we've actually had to implement. For example, there's new systems for checking out different sports equipment because there's just such a huge flux of people who want to check out different volleyballs. We've had to have more adults go on.
You mean at lunchtime?
At lunchtime.
Yeah.
We've had more people who had to go up on the roofs to try to retrieve them. We've actually had to increase our supervision in the gyms because there's just so many more students that are in these areas during those times of the day. So I would call those good problems to have, and problems that I would definitely embrace in not having the cell phones on campus.
Yeah, we just had to handle, there have been some requests for work orders to collect balls from roofs, but they didn't say where. But our kids are playing all of the time, all over campus, and it's been really nice to watch teenagers play.
And they're requesting more and more equipment. Right. So we have more spike balls, more volleyball nets. And so I think that that's a good problem to have.
I love it. And the library has been packed, absolutely packed. And for us, it's not a moral issue. It's not like, oh, you're terrible if you're playing video games or watching things with your friends. I love there's a different kind of socialization in it, and watching kids laugh and talk and play. It's just been really great to see. It's time for Teacher Feature, when you get to meet one of our fantastic faculty members at the Academy. This woman needs no introduction. She hails from the windy city of Chicago. She is an avid quilter. She can swim long distances. In fact, her theme song is Brick House. She has held a number of roles at the Academy. English teacher, department chair, associate head of school, dean of instruction and learning. She has worked under 4 heads of school, and I could not imagine doing this job without her. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the one, the only Stephanie Lipkowitz. Stephanie, welcome to our show.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
It's great to be here in an office in the library. Okay. Stephanie, you have taught at the Academy for how many years?
This year is my 36th year.
36th year. And how long have you been a teacher?
Well, I taught in college and graduate school, so 40 plus, more than that.
And so what made you want to teach?
Well, I actually fought teaching for a while. Both my mom is a Montessori elementary school teacher. My dad was a professor, and I sort of wanted to cut my own path. But I had been a camp counselor, and I had been a babysitter, and I taught in college. I taught French to fifth graders, and I just love kids. So I think that when I was in graduate school, I was sort of headed to be an academic, and the academic work was not as fulfilling as the teaching part. So I taught at Princeton, which is where I went to graduate school, and I had an amazing experience there, and just really wanted to focus on young people. So I actually moved to New Mexico, a place I had never been before, took a job teaching high school, and I fell in love with New Mexico and teaching high school. So I've been here ever since.
And so, how has teaching changed over your career, and how has it remained the same?
In many ways, my classroom is exactly the same as it was when I taught at Princeton. All I need is a great piece of literature, pencil, paper, and a group of kids. And we spent a lot of time doing close reading and discovering as a group what the meaning of this piece of literature is, and applying it to our own lives, and learning how to write clearly and express our truth. So in that way, I think I teach the same way that I always have. I think I've learned a lot more as I've grown as a teacher, how to get kids to be the most active in the classroom without having to listen to me explain what a piece of literature means, but how they can discover it on their own and help each other to move forward as a group. So I do think kids today have grown up as very good consumers of imagery, or images, visual media, more than written books. So they're a little bit more hesitant to maybe at times to take on really long, hard, dense literature. So I think that is a change, but I've assigned pretty hard, dense literature this year, and my kids are always game. So I think they do have strengths, though, in looking at visual media in a way that the kids I taught in 1987 weren't as adept. So to me, they're not really that different, the kids, but they do they have grown up with different experiences.
The one thing I have found, I certainly have not taught as long as you have, but in teaching writing, has changed a little bit. Not what makes a good sentence or what a good strong thesis is, but because of texting, because of these other means of communication, it has influenced what people or what students come in thinking about. Oh, it's my opinion, so therefore it's correct. How have you, approached? How has your approach to teaching writing changed, if at all, over the past, couple of years?
Again, I think the bones of what I do are the same, which is how do you find evidence for what it is that your opinion is, and that just pure feeling about something has a place in writing. But you do need to have good sources, and in my class, the source is the text. So you have to be able to justify a reading with clues that the text is giving you, and that there are better and worse readings depending on how you've marshaled that evidence. I I, I think kids recognize a beautiful sentence, so I have not had kids say, I want to write the way I text. I think when I read them models of peer writing, which I just did in my last class, they clap and they see when something is really powerful and authentic and uses words that make them see things in a different way than they had, and don't rely on overused or shop worn or cliched language. So I sort of hold fast to those values, even if the kids have changed. And kids at the academy, they're very interested in what you have to offer, and they believe that that I want what's best for them. So that's a really blessing to me, and has been for the last 36 years.
So you've worked at the academy for 36 years. What are some of the parts that you've absolutely loved about it, and what are some of the changes that have come about that you're excited about and have been a part of?
I think something that I've really loved is that because we're in New Mexico, and the kids are maybe less jaded, I guess.
I find them grateful.
Yeah. And so there's a kind of hungry quality to them, and a very, as you said, really appreciative quality. And I've loved that. The other thing I've really loved is that I've spent a lot of time in other independent schools. I also taught beginning teachers from independent schools across the country. And I came to understand that my creative freedom as a teacher here, not that I wasn't interested in aligning my course with other people, but I did have room to teach interesting new texts, to create really fun assignments that in other places there were just a lot more hoops to jump through. So that recently I got to teach an elective on friendship and love in literature, and that has been an amazing joy for me to do. I think kids are inherently interested in that topic, in relationships. I think it's really important to talk about friendship, and I've just gotten to teach all my favorite texts, and some of my texts are my favorite because they work so well with 17-year-olds, and so I've gotten to pick those. I think as a school, we have moved away from a certain kind of rigidity in our graduation requirements, and that we went through a period where I felt like everyone was so nervous to change something because there was a kind of slightly, I mean, not horrible, but a slight territorial quality about whose content was the most important. And now I think we've shifted from a teacher-driven sense of what's important, and a little bit more what do kids need and what do kids want and what is relevant to children now. And that shift was actually, once we did it, I think teachers really bought in, and met the moment in a really great way, and got real creative in thinking about that.
When we made some of those changes, I think just the right people were in the right spaces. You had our history chair, Karen Glenn, was an alum of the school. At that time, Christine Lenhart was the 10-12 division head. She was an alum of the school. The English chair was Liz Payne. She was an alum of the school. And then we had you, who was the glue that really connected the kinds of generations here. We had thoughtful, meaningful conversations, and then decided to make some changes, and not eliminate, but just allow choice in that. So you want to take humanities, take it. You want to take English, take it. We required English, but And then at the same time, allowing an array of courses that kids can choose from that will allow them to find passion, interest, and practice writing, critical thinking, problem solving. And what I love now is when you talk to kids and you ask them what courses they're taking, almost none of them have the same course selection. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. When and they get excited about what they're taking, and the more that we can offer that, the better in that space. So.
I would also, even though I'm an English teacher, my favorite new course is the Fly Lab. I feel like the science kids get an amazing experience doing original research partnered with a fabulous university, Stanford, and learn how to present their findings. And for kids who are interested in a STEM field, knowing in high school what it's actually going to be like is something we have never done before, and that I felt like was like a huge, important step for us to take.
Yeah, like as I said before, my mantra as a leader is, get me to yes, as, staying in the realm of the possible, as opposed to coming up with reasons why it can't be done. And so that when we decide to not do something, it's because we have had a thorough conversation and have figured out that isn't the right thing. I remember those conversations about the Fly Lab, and that it was expensive, and it is a commitment that for the teachers teaching it, and it's actually the care of the flies.
Yeah.
But just because it was hard and expensive was not a reason for us to not do it. That we felt that this was going to advance our school and be a wonderful opportunity for our kids and deepen learning at the academy. So we got to yes and figured it out and really did it through operational dollars and had the faculty that were willing to put in the time and still put in the time on that.
Absolutely.
So, okay, Steph, we're going to play the Charger Lightning Round. Don't overthink this. This is what you're known for, is the overthinking.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to give you a pair. You give me your first answer, okay?
Oh, wait. So
here we
what
go.
I like better?
Yes.
Okay, got
Okay,
it.
you ready?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Red or green?
Green.
Roadrunner or Coyote?
Roadrunner.
Broncos or Cowboys?
Broncos.
What is the best thing on our lunch menu?
Frito pie.
Favorite spot on campus?
My office.
You've been there a long time.
I have.
And the paint shows it.
Absolutely.
When we moved some of those books the other day, I was like, boy, 1988 says hello.
Absolutely. Yellow walls.
Favorite breakfast burrito?
Golden
Pride.
Pride.
Number one?
Yes.
What advice would you give to new teachers coming into this profession?
Coming into the profession?
Yeah.
They're
or new teachers.
To me, there's no more important job. And I often worry that great people, smart people aren't going into our profession. But I feel like I could not have picked a job that was more fulfilling and more important. Every day I get up, I feel like I'm going to do something worthwhile for some child today. And that, I really mean that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you for being a real mentor to me. I cannot imagine being at the academy without you, or certainly taking on the role of a head of school without having somebody who's as poised, grateful, knowledgeable, and supportive as you. So thank you.
Well, right back at you.
All right, we're going to conclude our episode with one of our special features called Mailbag. These are questions sent to us by students about Albuquerque Academy. So, Dr. Lenhart, why haven't we had cheer squad or cheerleading at Albuquerque Academy in the past? And is there any chance that we can have it in the future?
Right now, cheerleading, I've learned a lot about it recently. A couple of my advisees brought this up as a possibility and a hope for this school year. And there are 2 different types of cheerleading that have actually are part of NMAA.
Mm-hmm.
And, over the last 5 or 6 years, every year I've had students come to me asking if this is a possibility for our school. And so this year, a group of students have become more organized about it. So to be honest with you, whenever we have opportunities, I encourage students to participate in school activities and be together in community. I always feel that the answer should be yes. I think that the culture around the team is going to matter. And I think that's somewhat of the concerns I've heard from people who have been here in the past and have expressed concerns moving forward with cheerleading, is that they really want it to align with our mission and our culture and be very supportive of students. And, we found a great coach. The students have been really working on the way that they're going to appear at games and the way that we're going to move forward from a culture on the cheerleading team. I think it's really encouraging and positive for those students. I heard from students yesterday, so I'm not 100% on how many students will actually show up, but that there are close to 50 kids that are actually wanting to be involved in the program. I think that anytime we get kids that are excited about something, and I hope that it just encourages even more and more school spirit moving forward. Yeah. So I'm actually excited about the opportunity for the students.
It was really the first time I had been asked about it. And I concur with you that I see it when there can be positive engagement, that we say yes, that, my mantra as a leader is get me to yes. So I do find it there's no irony in this, but that, when as female leaders at the school, that we found the space for this, where perhaps in the past it was seen as being, not supportive of girls or women in a way that I don't think that we subscribe to. And I know that they had their initial meeting. There I think about 30 kids in it, and we'll see how basketball season works in it and take it from there. I'm very hopeful that a variety of kids will participate in that. I mean, at any given time, about 80% of our school student body is engaged in some form of athletics,
right.
And I think this will just increase that number. So I'm excited for it, and I'm really happy that the kids felt comfortable enough to come to advocate for themselves, and that we're able just to say yes and support it and find the funds, the coach, the space, and help clarify expectations on it. And we'll see how it goes.
I'm really excited to watch
Me too. I'm really excited for that. I want to thank Christine Lenhart for helping me tell the story of implementing the Academy's new cell phone policy, as well as our special guest, Stephanie Lipkowitz. I'm very fortunate to be part of a team that cares so deeply about education and, of course, Albuquerque Academy. Thanks for listening to What I Learned in School to learn a little bit about Albuquerque Academy. Send us your comments and questions to headofschool@aa.edu. You can listen to all of our episodes on our website at aa.edu and wherever you get your podcasts.